This week in Linux was kind of insane, in a good way though, because the Wine project hit the big 1.0 with Wine 10. AMD announced something called the AMD GPU Composition Stack, or ACS, and it has a ton of potential for positive change on the Linux desktop. Intel announced a modular PC idea that they're trying to push, and it could be pretty cool for everyone. It could also be good for the environment. Then we've got the latest release of SDL, which will positively impact gamers and so many more. All of this and more on This Week in Linux, the weekly news show that keeps you up to date with what's going on in the Linux and open source world. Now let's jump right into your source for Linux good news. This episode of Twill is sponsored by Sandfly Security. More on them later. Before we get started this week, I wanted to quickly tell you what's new at TuxDigital. We have a reaction video that I made about James Lee, and not to spoil anything, but there's a Linux twist in his video. It's about how he switched or broke up with Adobe, but also it's pretty cool, so check it out. And the style is pretty cool. I also am pretty proud of that thumbnail as a reference to the content. Also, Destination Linux, we are crushing it, and the next episode is not out yet, but it's kind of perfect that it's not out yet because it's episode 404. So it's not found yet, but this coming Monday, it will be available, and it's going to be a great episode. We just recorded it. I'm excited for you to watch it. So destinationlinux.net to subscribe. Also, the Pseudo Show has a new episode number 72, all about AI and so much more. So check out all the new stuff at TuxDigital. The Wine project just hit double digits with Wine 10.0, and it's certainly a milestone worth celebrating. From making your favorite Windows apps run better on Linux to massive technical advancements, this release is packed with features. So what's new? Wine 10.0 isn't just another update. It's the result of over 6,000 changes, a year of hard work, and some truly game-changing advancements. For those unfamiliar, Wine is a project to make Windows apps and games work on the Linux platform. And it's also what forms the foundation for Valve's SteamPlay Proton and Codeweaver's crossover. First up, ARM64 EC support is fully here with feature parity to ARM64. This is huge for anyone on ARM-based devices. The devs say that this takes advantage of the ARM64 EC support to run all the Wine code as native, with only the application's x86-64 code requiring emulation. Now, what does that mean? Well, Wine 10.0 implements an x86 emulation interface in its ARM builds, so you will be able to run 64-bit x86 apps on ARM's systems. That's right, you can run x86 64 applications on ARM systems. The cool ARM news doesn't stop there. The hybrid ARM64X modules now allow mixing ARM64 EC and plain ARM64 code into a single binary. Imagine seamless integration for apps across whatever architecture. This is a massive step forward for that. This stuff alone is worthy of celebrating the release by itself, but there's more. Next, the graphics department got a serious upgrade. High DPI scaling now works on more accurate, and even apps that aren't DPI aware will look sharper without tweaking any settings to do it. Plus, Vulkan rendering on child Windows is here, and this levels up support for 3D applications, especially for gaming. Wine 10.0 has now set the Wayland driver to be enabled by default. There still is an X11 driver, but this is pretty big news for advancing Linux because this just like winter, Wayland is coming. Pop-up windows behave correctly, OpenGL support is solid, and yes, auto-repeat for keys is finally here for Wayland support. It's all these small little touches like this make a big difference for usability. Multimedia pipelines got a major boost with a new optional FFmpeg backend. It's experimental, sure, but early tests show it's a game changer for apps relying on Media Foundation. Think smoother for video playback and better media compatibility. That's all coming together. For my fellow gamers, Wine 10.0 now supports Vulkan video extensions and implements a fixed function pipeline for Direct3D 9 using HLSL. So what does that mean? Well, fewer stutters and better performance in older games, and the Vulkan renderer also taps into dynamic state extensions for smoother gameplay. So what does all this mean for you? If you're a Linux user running Windows apps or games, Wine 10.0 is more than just an update. It's a whole new playing field. Whether it's ARM64 EC architecture support, initial support for Bluetooth in Wine, high DPI scaling making apps look more crisp, or Vulkan enhancements reducing stutters, this release is not just solid, it's exciting all the way around. As the basis for Proton and Crossover, Wine 10 is guaranteed to make those projects even better too. This is proof open source is amazing. Collaborative effort between multiple projects and multiple companies results in massive advancements for everyone. AMD dropped a surprise announcement this week, and I think it's going to be a big deal for the Linux desktop. AMD's Linux software engineers unveiled the AMD GPU Composition Stack, or ACS. What's fascinating is that this project goes beyond the typical scope of the open source graphics drivers. So ACS is a Wayland compositor forked from Weston, serving as a testbed for new advanced display features. Think of it as AMD's playground for innovating how displays work on Linux. So why is this exciting? Well, ACS isn't just a niche experiment. AMD plans to use it as a reference compositor for their hardware, aiming to extract the absolute best performance from their graphics and display tech. Imagine technologies like VRR or FreeSync and multiplane overlays, direct media, multimedia decode, and full screen HDR playback, and all of this being developed and optimized specifically for AMD hardware. If another company announced something like this, I'd be cautiously optimistic because optimizing for their own hardware sounds great, but also could be an issue of user lock-in. But with AMD, I'm just optimistic because AMD is making ACS a full-stack, open-source delivery vehicle, meaning it's not just for AMD hardware and it's not just for experimentation. It's where they'll integrate tools like performance tuners, multimedia players, profiling tools, and even support for 3D games. This is a big step forward, bringing cutting-edge graphics capabilities to the Linux desktop, especially for the Wayland journey. And it could have a ripple effect across handheld gaming devices like the Steam Deck or automotive infotainment systems and other Linux-powered applications. The ACS code is already live on GitLab, and it's being developed transparently within the open source community. Features like the wide gamut color management, tone mapping for HDR, and multi-seat support are already in place. And AMD is looking ahead as they're planning even more ambitious updates, such as windowed HDR playback, secure display tech, and advanced virtualization tools. This could be a huge deal for Linux advancement, even on more than just AMD hardware, thanks to them making it open source. And if you're wondering about adoption, AMD's strategy includes staging these features in ACS and eventually integrating them into other Wayland compositors like Weston. This means the benefits won't be locked to AMD and could enhance the entire Linux ecosystem, showing their commitment to Linux as a first-class platform. The AMD GPU Composition Stack, or ACS, is just getting started, but it's already showing huge potential from gaming to professional workflows. AMD is laying the groundwork for more advanced and capable Linux desktop experience. But what do you think? Could this be the beginning of a new era for Linux displays? Or do you think I'm just getting my hopes up? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Wouldn't it be awesome if upgrading your PC was as easy as swapping out Lego bricks? This week, Intel dropped a bold proposal that could reshape the way we think about PCs forever. We're talking modularity, repairability, and a massive step forward reducing e-waste. Does that sound familiar? Maybe you've heard of something called frameworks and the framework laptops. Well, Intel's taking that idea and running with it, possibly on a much bigger scale. So let's break this down. What does this mean for you, for your wallet, and even the planet? Intel's blog post starts with the very clear problem of e-waste. We're generating mountains of it every year, and part of the issue is how hard it is to repair or upgrade some of these devices, or in some cases, impossible to upgrade them. So their solution, a more modular approach to PC design. Think framework laptops. If you haven't seen them, they're laptops with easily replaceable motherboards, storage, ports, screens, and basically everything. These are super cool, and I very much want one, but Intel's vision takes it a step further. They're talking about modular I/O systems, scalable designs, and here's the big one, cross-vendor standards. I know, what are the odds of that? But that is what they're trying. According to Intel, adopting a modular architecture like this could have several big benefits. First, it could cut down on e-waste by extending the life of your hardware. Instead of replacing an entire system, you just upgrade the parts you need. Then second, it's a win for the right to repair movement. The fact that we even need to have such a movement is very sad and very shameful of the industry, but whatever. And that's also been gaining a lot of serious traction lately, which is awesome. And then finally, it could actually simplify product lines for manufacturers, making PCs more cost-effective to produce and more affordable to purchase. Intel says by developing a new approach to system design that allows for easy upgrades and component replacements, we aim to significantly extend the usable life of computing devices. Now, this just isn't, about cutting edge innovation. It's about reshaping consumer habits as well and how we interact with technology as a whole. So the big picture here is modular PCs could mean longer lasting systems that are easier to upgrade and repair, a meaningful reduction in e-waste, possibly a future where PC components are interchangeable across brands. Imagine like swapping out parts like you would swap out light bulbs. That would be amazing. But it's worth noting that this is still a concept. Intel's idea needs buy-in from manufacturers, and the cross-vendor standard they're envisioning would require collaboration on a massive scale. But if successful, it could be a game changer for everyone, consumers, manufacturers, and even the environment. So what do you think? Is this the future of PCs, or is it just another pipe dream? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And if you learn more, I'll put a link in the show notes where Intel lays out their idea so you can piece it all together yourself. See what I did there? Modular PCs. Piece it together. As Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable, but with threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your system down. Traditional agents, no, they slow you down and they leave blind spots. It's time for a smarter approach. That's why This Week in Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly Security, the revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond, it revolutionizes security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, and drift detection, covering threats from every angle. Whether your systems are in the cloud, on premises, or in embedded devices, Sandfly ensures they're all secure, without the headaches of agent-based solutions. Listen to what Ken Kleiner says, the senior security engineer at the University of Massachusetts. He has this to say: Sandfly is the first product I've seen that accurately and quickly detects thousands of signs of compromise on the Linux platform. Its unique method automates tasks which would be manually impossible. Automation is the key with detection, and Sandfly completely fits this and other requirements. If your organization is using Linux, this should be part of your cybersecurity toolset. So, experience security that's not just effective, but gives you peace of mind. No agents, no downtime, just cutting-edge protection. Dive into the future of Linux security at thisweekinlinux.com/Sandfly. That's thisweekinlinux.com/SANDFLY. And see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. That's thisweekinlinux.com/Sandfly. What if I told you that one of the most important tools in modern game development just got its biggest update in over a decade? Whether you're into gaming, developing, or just curious about the tech that powers your favorite experiences, this is big. Let's dive into the release of SDL 3 and why this update specifically is a big deal. Well, first, what exactly is SDL? So SDL stands for Simple Direct Media Layer. It's the glue that holds a lot of modern software together. It's a cross-platform development library that gives developers low-level access to things like audio, input devices, and graphics hardware. If you're ever playing a game like an indie game on Steam, or emulated a classic console, or even just watched a video on some apps, there's a good chance SDL is working behind the scenes to make it all work. The last major update to SDL was SDL 2, launched in 2013. And for over a decade, it's been the go-to solution for, well, a ton of stuff. But today, we're looking at SDL 3, and it's not just an incremental update, it's a huge leap forward. Let's talk features. First off, SDL 3 introduces modern support for some key technologies, like native Vulkan renderer support for better performance and cross-platform 3D rendering, improved Wayland support, which becomes more and more essential every day, Pipewire integration for cameras, and it prefers Pipewire for audio over Pulse audio. And it doesn't stop there. SDL 3 includes a brand new GPU API for modern 3D rendering and GPU compute across platforms. For developers pushing the limits of what hardware can do, this is a big deal, a game changer, if you will. Beyond that, there are new APIs, a ton of them, like dialogue, camera, file system, and even customizable virtual keyboards for mobile platforms. It's all about giving developers better tools to create seamless experiences. One of my favorite additions is the initial color space support. Think HDR preparations, which means that they're looking at making sharper, more vibrant visuals in the near future. SDL 3 is also slimming down by dropping old, unused code, making it leaner and more efficient. So that's fantastic too. But it's not just about the tech. Developers are also getting better documentation and brand new example programs. So if you're a dev, this is the update that you've been waiting for. It's fantastic to see projects like this putting this much effort into their documentation, because a lot of the times projects don't put effort into documentation, and that's a shame. But it's great to see when people do and when the projects do, especially in this level of making it extremely good documentation. So here's the TLDR. Wait, didn't read DL, as in didn't listen, or didn't watch, because it's also a video. Because for those who don't know, there's an audio version podcast and there's a video version. So I guess we'll just stick to TLDR. So the TLDR on SDL3, it's faster, leaner, and packed with modern features like Vulkan and HDR prep. It's prioritizing the modern Linux desktop with Pipewire and Wayland support. There's also new APIs and improved documentation, which makes it easier than ever for devs to create incredible experiences. And overall, it's just a fantastic update. Whether you're building games or emulators or multimedia software, whatever, SDL3 isn't just a toolkit, it's the toolkit. And if you want to learn more, you'll find links in the show notes. Rolling release Ubuntu. Yeah, you heard that right. Rolling Linux is back with their latest release, and it's packed with updates that aim to redefine how we think about Ubuntu-based distros. Whether you're a seasoned Linux user or just curious about rolling releases, this one might be making you reconsider your setup. So let's dive in. First up, the big picture here is that Rhino Linux 2025.1 is kicking off a new year with a polished and feature-packed version. And there's a lot of stuff in here. First of all, we have the Hello Rhino package. So one of the standout additions is Hello Rhino, the sleek Rust-based welcome app. It's designed to jumpstart your experience. It connects you to the Rhino community, documentation, and everything you need to know to hit the ground running or rolling. Everything you need to hit the ground rolling. Dynamic workspaces are now part of the Unicorn desktop. Gone are the days of manually managing static workspaces. Inspired by GNOME's workflow, Unicorn now creates and removes workspaces as you need them, offering a seamless multitasking experience. And for those who appreciate the finer details, and by finer I mean smaller, Rhino's custom grub theme brings a modern aesthetic to the boot. And it's not a big change, it's a pretty small change, but it adds to the overall polish of the distro. Now let's talk about Packstall, Rhino's secret sauce for package management. The major updates include internationalization support, better package conformity, and even a debug flag for developers. Plus, the chaotic Packstall pre-built repository means you can skip long build times and enjoy pre-built packages. These are nice for anyone looking to streamline their setup. Using a rolling release-based Ubuntu system, you've already kind of have to be brave and bold to do that. But for the very brave and the very bold, there's Rhino Stampede, a new meta package for testing work-in-progress features. Think of it as a playground for contributors and curious users who want to see what's coming as a testing bed for this rolling release distro. And for those of you who are attending FOSDEM 2025, the Rhino Linux team will be giving a talk about the distro's creation, the future of the distro, and all of that at the event. But if you can't make it, there's also going to be a live stream for it, and you can check out the recording afterwards. So what's the takeaway here? Well, Rhino Linux is doubling down on their vision of a rolling release Ubuntu experience. They have new tools like Hello Rhino, dynamic workspaces, and updates to Packstall. So whether you're looking for a distro to experiment with or just intrigued by the idea of rolling Ubuntu, well, Rhino Linux 2025.1 is an interesting distro to check out for sure. So if you're ready to give it a spin, you know what to do. Check the links in the show notes and let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. What if I told you there's a web browser out there that's been quietly doing its thing for 25 years? It's ultra lightweight, it's lightning fast, and it even runs on devices you wouldn't expect it to, like an Atari. Meet Dillo, a browser that's part nostalgia trip, part engineering spectacle, and absolutely not modern in any way whatsoever. But here's the thing, it's not trying to be. Let's talk about the latest release of Dillo with Dillo 3.2 and why you might want to try out this 25-year-old browser in 2025. Dillo 3.2 is here and it's bringing a mix of new features, bug fixes, and that same classic charm that it's kept it alive for decades. Let's start with the big updates. First, we have SVG support. Dillo now supports simple SVG images, which means that math formulas on Wikipedia, which were completely broken before, now render properly. For a browser that's lightweight and minimalist, this is pretty big deal. And speaking of visuals, Dillo now supports WebP images. This is an optional feature. You can ignore these files if you want to, but with WebP, it has become the standard basically for the formats because of the quality and the render times and the combination of the two. So it's good to see them there. Now, there are some improvements with this release that kind of bring it closer to modern browsers. Well, not really, but these are good improvements overall. There's a new scroll bar page navigation mode, so to speak, that you can scroll one page up or page down by clicking on the scroll bar anywhere that's not the actual like bar itself. It's like the empty spot of it. It's a small touch, but it's an improvement, and it's definitely an important one to have that most other browsers also have had for years. And after 25 years, zooming is finally here. You can Control plus and Control minus to adjust the text size or reset it with Control 0. It's simple, but for accessibility and usability, it's a must-have. Now, here's something that's actually pretty cool, and not many browsers let you do this. It's custom link actions. You can right-click a link, and you can now define your own commands to open it. Want to play YouTube video directly in MPV? Well, you can. This is actually pretty cool. Okay, so Dillo isn't here to replace your modern browser. It doesn't support JavaScript, and its HTML5 and CSS3 support is rather limited. But what it does offer is simplicity, speed, and some nostalgia. It's good for super old computers that you still want on the internet for some reason, and it could also be really fun to play with for anyone who loves tinkering with tech. Dillo might not be for everyone, and well, no, it's definitely not for everyone, but it's kind of cool, and for anyone who hates JavaScript, it might be something to check out. We have a quick update about Bcachefs and the drama with the Linux kernel. It's basically done now, it seems. I mean, hopefully. To quickly recap, Bcachefs, a copy on write file system, was in the spotlight last kernel cycle, but not for the best reasons. Its changes were rejected during the Linux 6.13 development cycle. And why? Well, it was because of a committee decision of the Code of Conduct Committee, basically a violation of the Code of Conduct. So here's what went down. There was some drama building for quite some time, and then heated discussions on the Linux kernel mailing list got messy enough that the committee decided to decline all pull requests from the lead maintainer of Bcachefs for that cycle. Fast forward to now, and the Linux 6.14 merge window is open, and a new pull request was submitted, and guess what? No drama, no objections. Linus Torvalds and the COC committee didn't even comment on it. The changes were merged within hours. So the big highlight here is that this pull request included what's hoped to be the final major on-disk format change before Bcachefs can officially lose its experimental label. That's a huge, huge milestone. It means the file system is inches away from being production ready, which is exciting for anyone who's been following this development, as I have. And so far, it seems that things have settled down, and hopefully that means smooth sailing from here on out. So there you have it, a happy ending to what was a pretty bumpy road last time. So let's hope it stays that way. And let me know, are you excited for Bcachefs to hit prime time, or are you still skeptical? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this episode of This Week in Linux. If you like what I do here on this show and want to be kept up to date with what's going on in the Linux and open source world, then be sure to subscribe. And of course, remember to like that smash button. If you'd like to support the show and the TuxDigital network, then consider becoming a patron by going to tuxdigital.com/membership. We're going to get a bunch of cool perks like access to the patron-only sections of our Discord server and so much more, including access to the patron-only live show that happens every week after the stream. And for those who didn't know, yes, we're back streaming This Week in Linux. We're live in 25. So thisweekinlinux.com/live to watch it. You can also support the show by ordering the Linux is Everywhere t-shirt or the This Week in Linux shirt at tuxdigital.com/store. Plus, while you're there, check out all the other great stuff we have like hats, mugs, hoodies, stickers, and more at tuxdigital.com/store. I'll see you next time for another episode of your source for Linux good news. Thanks again for watching. I'm Michael Tennell. I hope you're doing swell. Be sure to ring that notification bell. And until next time, I bid you farewell.